Hi, Jessica here. Welcome back to MyTransgenderNation. Today, we have an interview with Sydney Henck. Good morning, Sydney.
Morning, Jessica.
Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, no problem.
Sydney is the Director of Programs at Triangle Community Centers. He holds a Master's of Social Work from NYU and is licensed in social work from the state of Connecticut. Sydney has experience working with children and families as well as senior clients with a variety of backgrounds. So we have plenty to talk about with Sydney. So I thought we would start, Sydney, with you telling us a little bit about your personal story.
Yeah, sure. So, when I graduated from Sarah Lawrence College way back in the day, I kind of left there with not a lot of direction. I ended up going into lab work for a couple of years, but I really didn't feel at home there. And so I casually started searching the internet to see, hey, if I could have any job, what would it be? And anyone that I found needed a social work degree. So I went back to school to NYU and I got my license for social work from them, and originally in New York City. I got my first job in Connecticut, and so I transferred everything over there. And I was working for a small non-for-profit that worked with kids in public housing, which I loved.
Oh, wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and so I kind of when that was kind of coming up and I was ready for a change, I saw the position at Triangle, and it really spoke to me. And so I applied thinking I would never get the job, and somehow here I am. And it's really been great to help, our clients really find themselves. And even if they have found themselves, how to, navigate a lot of that. I do, not only am I the director of programming, but I do a lot of case management for them as well, using my social work background. And so a lot of it is connecting people to resources or just kind of being there. There's a lot of people in our community that don't have family connections or not very supportive family connections. And so it's really important for them to have a sense of community and belonging. And that's what I really love about the work that I do.
Excellent. So tell us more about the Triangle Community Center. How is it involved with the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we eat, live, and breathe, right? So we are the largest LGBTQ center, in Connecticut, and we primarily serve Fairfield County. So that's everything from Greenwich, that touches New York, all the way up past Bridgeport there, and in all sorts of directions. But with COVID, we've really accessed the whole state at this point, and that's a big thanks to, Zoom and online programming.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we have, kind of our three major components is programming, which is what I'm in charge of, which is everything from AA to, social groups to youth groups to, exercise groups, anything that you can imagine. I'm always looking to bring to the center to really have people, engage in the community and find people with common interests. We also have our counseling and case management department, which is our newest department. And that involves things like helping folks have name changes, getting folks access to affirming care, receiving counseling at low to no cost, and making sure that, folks in our community really have access to those resources. And then our last department is our training department, where we're hired by local government, schools, libraries, bookstores, you name it, we've probably done a training at it. And that's where we, go into the community and talk about the LGBTQ 101. What are pronouns? What are all these really cool words that we have? How can you just not be a jerk, right? When it comes to, dealing with our community and really kind of in giving that safe space for folks to ask those questions that they might otherwise be afraid to.
It sounds like a great program you have set up there.
Yeah, we serve thousands of people every year, in all sorts of different capacities. There's tons of overlap, and some folks might just see us for one thing and then we don't see them again. And it's been really rewarding.
In the transgender community, do you have an age group that you zone in on, or are you pretty much encompassing the entire range?
I mean, for what I like to say is I like to, we are really growing. And what that means is that, we engage folks. I mean, I've gotten calls for people who are like my 6-year-old, and I'm like, well, that's interesting, all the way up to folks who are way, way older than even my grandparents, right? So we are really trying to run that entire gambit. I have youth programs specifically for trans youth, as well as, programs that engage, adults and beyond. If I don't have it, I'd love to have it.
Yeah, there you go.
And, even if you're not ready for a group setting, all of our counseling staff is trained in the LGBTQ community and is really able to engage folks on an individual level as well.
Interesting. So I would imagine how you approach the younger transgender group as opposed to the olders is very different, because the younger ones are so much more engaged and aware and, grown up with this around them. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a big part of whenever I'm engaging kids is it's not just the kids, it's their family as well. So we actually run our youth transgender group at the same time as our PFLAG group. And the reason for that is so that parents can have their own space to talk about, some of the difficulties they might be going through and have that supportive atmosphere as our kids are also being supported. Because that's a big piece of what I do when I am doing social work, is that I can fix a kid all day long, but if I'm sending them to, an abusive home or an unsupportive home or a home that just isn't ready yet, all of my work gets undone. And so it's really, a community-based effort to make sure that we're reaching folks on both fronts.
Yeah. Sounds like quite the task, for sure.
Yeah, it's Rome wasn't built in a day. And
No.
So, it's the little steps that we take that often can make the biggest impact.
Do you think doing business here in Connecticut is easy to do for an organization like yours as opposed to other places in the country, or does the state of Connecticut make your life difficult?
I mean, it's not a wholesale. There are times that, I get a lot of calls from folks who might be living down south, particularly places like Texas or Florida, where folks suddenly have become feeling a lot more unsafe for a lot of obvious reasons.
Yes.
And they're looking to move up to Connecticut. That's not to say that Connecticut doesn't have its own work to really do.
Yeah.
But, we get a lot of grants from the state and stuff like that we apply for through them. And that's because they are really acknowledging that there does need to be work still done in these areas, and that, TCC, has the ability to do these things, which has been really, really great. But that doesn't mean that, I still get phone calls from folks that, can be a little unsettling, or unsupportive towards the community. And so it's really this, we're a work in progress. And we're definitely further along than a lot of other states. Connecticut has made it very clear that, trans youth athletes will be allowed, that they can use gender affirming bathrooms, that there is access to gender affirming care versus other states. But that doesn't mean that, we can just kind of put a bow on it and walk away yet.
Sure. So for people out of state that want to take advantage of your resources, what's the best way for them to do that?
Usually they give us a call. It's a little bit tough because we don't necessarily have resources in other states.
Yep.
We work with a lot of agencies in Connecticut to build those partnerships, to train them, to make sure that when we refer our clients out, that they're going to a place that's going to be accepting and affirming of them. When it comes to other states, I often recommend online resources. They have access technically to a lot of our Zoom groups. I get people out of state. I even have people out of country sometimes.
Joining your Zoom groups.
Yeah, on our virtual groups and stuff like that. So, those are really great ways. And then, it's just sometimes finding them the resources in their own area where they're living, just so that they, might have somebody who's a little bit more boots on the ground and integrated within their community.
Tell us a little bit more about your Zoom groups, especially for the adults. How does that work for the transgender community? What do you do for them in your Zoom groups?
Yeah, so all of our groups are free. And so folks can go on our website, which is ctpridecenter.org. I try to keep that as updated as possible, and they can scroll through. I always recommend folks reach out to the group leader to find out if the group is in person or online. It's been really fluctuating between COVID, and sometimes that's just because the group leader might get sick but still want to hold the group, and sometimes it's just because the cases are so high that folks get really nervous, and I'm very understanding of that. And so I encourage them to reach out and get the Zoom link from there, and engage in the group. Our groups are often open format, especially our transgender group, which is a peer support group. So it's run by someone who is transgender, who is really speaking to the broader group. And, in that everyone can kind of share and help each other, pick each other up, and have those conversations that might not be able to be had in mixed spaces.
That sounds very good. Very good. Yeah. So what advice would you give to family members that have someone in their orbit that is either already transitioning or thinking about transitioning?
Yeah, what I always say to folks is that, the greatest thing that you can do for somebody is to just be there. You don't have to have every answer. You don't need to know everything. And you're dealing with your own kind of emotions within that time, and that's going to be okay. The next step I always tell folks is to educate themselves. Online has a lot of really great resources from reputable sources about terminology, how to be accepting, hearing other people's experiences, and then sometimes that may not be enough, or sometimes you might want more. And so that's where I encourage folks to engage with, we have a PFLAG group, to reach out to places like TCC and, talk to somebody about it, really, really engage in the community. But honestly, we see, suicide rates drop greatly, over 50% when you just have somebody who accepts you in your life. And if you can be that person, right? If you can just be there and be like, hey, I don't understand everything, but I'm going to be there for you. That really does make all the difference.
Excellent. Excellent advice. All right. So let's now talk about somebody who is thinking about for themselves. They're thinking about going through the process. They're scared. They don't know what to do. Granted, there's a lot of things online, but it's like, what do I do? How do I start? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, for those folks, online can definitely be a scary place. I always recommend folks, go check out counseling if that's and therapy if that's a route that they can take. Yeah. TCC right now, our therapy as well as our case management is free. So I would encourage folks to give us a call or send us an email and really engage in that. And that's going to be helpful later too, because if you do decide to medically transition, you need a lot of those like therapy letters and approval letters and stuff like that, which we can definitely do at TCC as well. And, you don't even have to commit when you come to talk to us, right? A lot of folks are just figuring themselves out and need a non-judgmental voice. And that's where a therapist can really, step in.
Do you do those in person, or do you do them virtually, or both?
Both. We do both online as well as in person when it comes to our therapeutic services. I even have some older clients who I see over the phone. So we really try to make it as accessible as possible.
Excellent. Great to hear. I'm glad you decided to join us today. Your organization sounds like a great resource here in Connecticut, and I hope that it does well moving forward in the future. I'm glad that you could share all the things that are going on there with us today. Do you have any parting words of advice that you want to give our community before we wrap this up today?
Yeah, I guess, above all, to thine own self be true, right? This is, it's not necessarily a destination. It's the process that happens in the middle of it. And a lot of that is going to be hard. And there are people out there that are going to be there for you. And it might not be family, it might not be friends, but you will find somebody who will be there for you. And I wish you the best of luck.
Out there, isn't there?
Yeah, no, it's changed vastly since even when I was a kid, and I'm not even that old right now, right? So, it's an ever-changing, environment. And that is what I love about it, is that it's just never going to be, one thing.
Yep. And as long as the political world doesn't get in our way, it's just going to get better and better. And we can, help more people as we go here. This is good. All right. Well, Sydney, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, I'm Jessica. This has been an interview here on My Transgender Nation. You can find us on Facebook at MyTransgenderNation. We have a website as well, MyTransgenderNation.com. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We have more interviews coming up in the near future. And if you have any ideas on what you'd like to see us talk about, please send us a message and let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you. Enjoy your day, and thank you for tuning in to us today. Take care.